Ooh, that always works. Morning. If everybody come take a seat, if we can get started, that'd be great. Oh, a lot to cover today. Good to see all of you. Welcome. Thanks for being here. We had, just so you know, late last week we made some internet changes in the back room, so the IP address may have changed on you. If your computer or your phone is not logging on, you might have to turn off and refresh. We found several people yesterday that had it happen, and some is not working, so we'll figure that out if you can't connect. So just making you aware. Is Patrick here?
He is.
Eric Kroll, everybody. Hey, hi Eric.
You might see a bunch of people roll in. We now have 6 loan officers officing in this.
Oh, you're all coming down the hall for here in a second?
They might all kind of wander.
Oh,
It's like they're doing loans or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Everyone will probably stick their head in, and then after this.
Oh, hold on, we're not listening. Everybody stop talking and listen. Thank you. Okay.
After your meeting, at 11:30, Ryan's going to teach the Lakeview Springboard program, which is 100% financing. It's great for first-time home buyers. We closed several of them in the last couple months, and it's a really good way for you to find a way to lend, or for us to lend to people who don't have a down payment, but are otherwise qualified, and they're regular loans.
And they're right in the building. Encourage you to give them a try, give them a shot. I send several your direction. I've got my own personal transaction going with them right now, so trust them that much. So, are we waiting for anyone else to wander in from the back? Okay. Before we get started, anyone here as a guest or for the first time? I don't want to embarrass anyone, but okay, yes. Could you say hi and just introduce yourself? Hi. Okay. Hi. And what's your name?
Doreen Gorns from Premier Property Group.
Oh, okay, great. Have you been here before?
No.
You look familiar.
I've been in the office.
That's probably why, yeah. Good, well, welcome, glad you're here. Anyone else here for the first time? Or guests? Nope, okay. Today, Kim Mitchell is here. Congratulations, this is a CE hour today. So, thank you, Kim.
It's only because the information is so valuable to you guys, and you gave me those puppy dog eyes today, and I'm like, oh, no,
Yeah.
of course, I could never refuse them.
So watch for the clipboard, sign up, and you get credit for this hour today. And then, like I said, Ryan after this meeting is teaching a CE hour as well. Going to turn some time over to Patrick Palmer, if we can. You're on the agenda, and this is the best time to do it since you're here. Patrick Palmer is going to be teaching on November 7th. He's going to hear just kind of intro this. Oops, sorry, wrong one. Go back to one. There's a business planning event Patrick Palmer will be teaching that you've seen announced, hopefully, if you haven't. And he's going to talk about that a little bit.
Well, thanks, Paul. So we are going to have a workshop. For those of you that are interested in developing, I would say, some base level, like pretty dialed in sales skills around vision, business planning, disciplines. We're going to talk about marketing automation. I mean, there's going to be some really good stuff. I'm going to skinny it down to 2 hours. Like, the only complaint I got about the actual day was how long it was going to be, so we can skinny some of it down.
They're realtors.
Yeah, no, I get it. So if you really want to launch into 2020, I think a lot of you probably have already heard this whole term about yield curve inversion, the economy changing. You've seen iBuyers, you've seen all of this stuff that's happening in what's called digital disruption. So we're going to address all those. I've been speaking about them for a little while. And so if you want to learn more about that, you want to learn how to attack 2020 in a little bit different manner, because there's going to be so many things, I think, changing in the next, I won't say 12 months, but I'm almost certain in the next 18 months to 24 months, we'll probably see some, at least amount of recession, economic recession. So how do we deal with getting people to list their homes? How do we deal with people to, who were going to buy, but maybe now they're pausing? It's a different set and different mentality going into a season like that. When inventory starts to expand, there's different ways that we want to plan for that. So it's welcome, it's free. There's going to be a set of tools that you'll get both digitally and in a workbook that you can take with you and keep forever.
I want to hear about that today.
Show up here, and I promise the first 40 minutes is going to be about as much economic data is probably it's fun to stomach, I would say,
yeah.
but enough to help us understand. Okay, things are changing, and do we see them, and how do we prepare for them? There's nothing to be afraid of, and we'll shoot that data out as well. But I think it'll be really compelling, get you set up to deal with what we're probably already starting to hear, right? How many of you have had a bar who was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to list because I've heard there's this pending recession or there's a presidential election. How does that influence interest rates, all those sorts of things. November 7th is a great day. It's going to be from 10 to 12. I think Kim is also one of our sponsors. So, come hang out with us for a couple hours, really get your business set up and geared up for 20.
I have had the question, it's not a CE hour, correct?
Correct, that's what I was just
Not
gonna
just-
say,
yeah.
it doesn't qualify for CE.
Doesn't qualify, but it's just
Yeah,
good
it's-
information, every one of you
Yeah.
probably
Right.
should go, yeah.
Is
It should be.
12 or 9 to 12?
Yeah, 9 to that.
I'm going to bump it to 10, so we're going to do it from 10 to 12.
So we'll send out another announcement.
So if you could make sure that you sign up on the Eventbrite, so I can make sure that there's enough supplies for everybody. Just going to be over on Cruise Way in Lake Oswego. So Paul, really appreciate the time.
You bet. So I'm
And you
gonna-
guys will. My email's in Basecamp, so if you guys have questions leading up to the event, feel free to.
You can ping
text
him
me.
in Basecamp, he's in there as well,
Yeah.
the lender's in there, so you can communicate with them.
What is your name again?
My name's Patrick Palmer.
Okay.
Executive VP at Cross Country. So here's what I'm doing right now, send to somebody. Take just a second, am I on the right network?
Kim,
No,
how does
no.
the state not allow marketing to be a CE? for realtors?
It's just marketing isn't, business practices really aren't, contracts are, financial information is, it's just, I
Can we
did
get
ask.
1 hour for the economic stuff if I send you the deck?
Yes. Yeah, if you spin it and, talk
No,
about.
there's no spinning. I mean,
There
there's
is,
10
yes.
Yeah, do that, that's a
Okay.
good idea, actually.
Yeah.
That's a really good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, send it to me and then I can see. You know me. I'm
Did you wanna
always,
change the
I try to fit everything
I'll
into
change
the
that in
credit
the
hour
e-bite.
box.
We'll
yeah.
just select
Okay.
a,
Because it's going to be heavy duty into the meaning of a yield curve inversion, the meaning of recession, what's happened in the last 5 housing cycles. I mean, there's going to be a lot of data for you to take out and combat
Okay.
these notions of what happens psychologically and emotionally when people think pending recession is coming.
Okay.
Be great tools for 2020 and beyond.
Okay.
Anything else?
That
Financial
segues into
forecast,
part of what
yeah.
we'll be talking about in a minute on not just iBuyer, but just kind of Who Moved My Cheese? Who's ever read that book?
Mm-hmm.
The cheese is always moving, right? So we're gonna talk about that here in a second. That's part of this is anticipating the cheese might move and what do you do about it, right?
The
The
good
good
news
news
is that-
hopefully we should be able to do 1 credit hour, because I agree that economic stuff is very needy for that. But come to help your business next year.
Yeah, this is more about you. Taking the time to breathe
Come
and
to
really
help your
focus on
business. That's what you're gonna
structuring.
get out of this. That's the big thing.
There's a good segment in there about digital disruption and iBuyers. And just so you guys know, the digital disruption piece hit us a long time ago. We've been dealing with it for 3 years, right? Quicken, Rocket Mortgage, Loan
Yeah.
Depot, people who are essentially trying to whittle you and I out of a job. So if we glue together, we can combat that. There's a lot.
It's
of
even different than that. Everybody just sees it's a huge pie. Everybody wants a piece of it. It's not like they're putting you out. They just want part. They want in, right? And I looked it up about a year ago. Rocket Realty has been reserved by Quicken a couple years ago. So Costco's talked about it. Amazon had a page one time about getting
And
into.
Amazon's in it.
Yeah, they're in it.
We
They're
are.
trying to get into real. I mean, so everybody's trying to get their hands in this multi-trillion-dollar pie.
Yeah.
Is really what's going on here. So, thanks, Patrick. All
Feel
right.
free to ping me, guys. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I just sent it all back out to all of you. You just sent out via Basecamp, so it's in your email or you got notified.
Just registered.
What's that?
Just registered.
Just registered? And right on that event is the registration. I don't know why my thing's going slow. What network am I on? Yeah. So on November 7th, if you want to just go look it up proactively, you just go to business planning event, and there's a link right there to register. That's all you do. Kim?
Oh, yeah, also, if you could go down to, speaking of iBuyer, we do have an iBuyer class that's coming up tomorrow, the 23rd, and it's over at the Oregon State Bar. It's being held by Fidelity National Title, which we are part of, and the speakers are coming from Phoenix. Okay, they've been working with the iBuyer different platforms with Open Door, and there's a whole bunch of them. If you looked at it on my invite, and it should be down there. I think I just did it on Monday. But anyway, they're going to give you all kinds of different strategies and everything about how to work with them and make money, and how how to just kind of be comfortable with it, because they're not going away. So, to be able to have people that have been doing it for 5 years in Phoenix to come up here and share their knowledge, please, please, please do sign up. We do, I think the east side is full now, but we still do have maybe
There's no
25
iBuyer
seats.
class on our calendar.
Oh, not on the calendar,
No.
I did it on a, if you look at me, not flood insurance, there's a.
Okay, you did it under your name?
Yeah.
It's a message? Okay.
It's a message to everybody, so, and if you do, just email me or whatever, or text me, let me know and I'll put you on the list, because it's gonna be here again, a 2-hour class from 2 to 4 in the afternoon, so it should be really good. Other than that, thanks for your business, guys. Oh,
Okay.
and also, one more thing, last year, our branch ended up winning the Halloween contest. We have a competition between
Yeah.
all of the between all of the offices, and it's really funny. We did invite you guys to come over and and kind of enjoy it with us. We had the whole office. You couldn't even tell it was like a business office. It was a haunted house. And so anyway, we're trying to top what we did last year. So we want to invite you guys to come over. We're going to have some games. It's going to be a circus, okay? So lots of fun stuff to do. Yeah, so just come on by and say hi and everything. We'd love to see you there. So I'm going to pass out some little tickets.
Thanks, Kim.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for on a impromptu making this a CE hour. Thanks.
Yes. Thank
I saw some more guests walk in. You can introduce yourself if you'd like. It's up to you. You can raise your hand and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, or if you don't want to. 5, 4, 3, yeah. Okay, I don't want to embarrass anyone. Okay, on the calendar, just to make you aware, again, there's a CE class after this one today. Today's the 22nd of October. Geez, 2 months till Christmas.
Yeah.
Have you got your shopping done? Who started? Who goes to Amazon? There's a CE hour after this one here at 11:30. Also, just want to point out this Thursday, Op City will be here, corporate, and so you'll all be invited to. If those that want to receive the Op City leads, which we have a lot of people getting a lot of leads out of that. If you want to learn more about that, there's a meeting at 10 o'clock on Thursday, and you'll be seeing another announcement about that. Another new agent orientation class on Thursday as well at 2, and then just want to point out that give you a heads up on December 10th we have the More Realty Christmas party. We're going to be holding it at the Sherwood Arts Center because it seats almost 300 people. And we're hoping to have a good turnout. We have some fun announcements and some special things that we're going to be kind of rolling out or giving you a peek at for 2020. They're pretty cool. Some things we're working on for like a year now and kind of pretty well ready to roll out. So it should be a good event and just a nice time to get together. Just wanted to thank all of you. And so watch more information about that. Just want to point it out that it's on there. Anything else in the calendar? Good. How's that? I was in the military for a short time. And the drill sergeant would give all these instructions for like 5 minutes. Any questions? Good. And he wouldn't even give you a chance to.
That's where you'll start.
Any questions? Good. Yeah, I was like, all right. Hope I listened. So I want to talk about, really quick, go to my email really fast. So who has struggled with, open this. So I sent this to the real estate agency and to my attorney. Let's see if I can, or our attorney, we have corporate counsel. In the contingent right to purchase addendum, which I have open here, section 8. This is important, so this is valuable. Contingencies and other timelines. Timelines set, so just listen. Okay, contingency is set forth in the financing section of the sales agreement shall continue unchanged. Period. Except as otherwise provided during the agreed upon timelines for contingencies, for example, review of documents of record, professional inspection, lead-based paying, etc., and other non-contingent timelines except closing, for example, time to deposit earnest money or transfer funds, in the sales agreement shall commence unchanged, or continue unchanged, or commence the following business day the buyer delivers notice to seller. So I have a question for you. If I check box 2, right here, what does the earnest money deposit do? Just read it for a second.
Read it.
I said read it, not talk.
Yeah.
Read it for a second. So, anyone confused? You should raise your hand. Every one of you should be confused by this. Okay? So my underlying sales agreement says earnest money deposit to be due 3 days after mutual acceptance. But we're contingent. right, contingent right, see attached contingent right to purchase addendum. And we've checked box 2. When is deposit due? Is it due 3 days after mutual acceptance, or is it due after buyer gives notice of they've moved into first position? I see a lot of people going like this, and you should. I sent this to my attorney, and he gave me a confusing answer back. And I'll just give him a hard time. If he was here, he'd laugh. But he said, he says, nope, that's the wrong one, I think. Good question. This is what he sent to me. The language amends itself to more than one reasonable interpretation. Would you agree? The way I read it, the earnest money is due the time period stated in an underlying purchase agreement commencing the next business day after buyer delivers notice to seller that they have accepted offer to purchase their home. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No. It's due within 3 days, which commences after you give notice. Do you see the conflict in his answer? So I called him. I just hung up with him. I said, Kevin. and he reread it with me, and he says, oh, you're right, Paul. I'm sorry. This is so poorly written that it's open to all kinds of interpretation. So when you go back to my original one here, go back to here, I said, okay, what everybody overlooks is accept. Okay? And I literally had to copy and paste this to a worksheet and do a
Highlights.
English dissection of this paragraph to figure out the triple negatives and the maybes.
Diagram.
Right? I had to diagram it, right? But in the end, underlying timeline set for the financing sales rate shall continue unchanged. Is there any question about that? So that's section 5 in the purchase and sales agreement is all the financing contingencies. 4 and 5? 4 and 5, excuse me. That all remains intact, which means what? You gotta turn your approval letter in, you gotta apply for your loan, you gotta provide your lender all the information, you gotta keep moving along all the financing stuff that's relevant to close a transaction, even when you're contingent. That's non-negotiable. Okay? Fair enough?
Yep.
Okay. And then, except as otherwise provided herein, timelines for contingencies for review of documents of record, for what would that be? Prelim, seller disclosure, letters paying, HOAs.
Right.
Your professional inspection and lead-based paint and other non-contingent timelines. And let's pretend the rest of this doesn't exist, okay? Pretend like that's not there. And other timelines in the sales agreement shall continue unchanged. Pretty simple, right? That means whatever is underlying in the sales agreement remains intact and you move forward under those terms and conditions and timelines.
Right.
How often should you check this box? Not very often as a buyer. Because that means that I'm off the market waiting and I will spend all this money and all my timelines start running at mutual acceptance and I don't even have an offer on my home yet. So as a buy side, you don't want to check that box. Unless you're trying to make it a really strong offer for a seller. Hey, look, we're so confident in this. We want the home so bad, we're going to check that box and just keep moving forward. We're taking the risk. Does that make sense? Yes? Who doesn't understand what I just said? Tom, you don't?
No.
Okay, so if I check that box continue unchanged, I have my home listed or about to list, and I don't have an offer on it. I'm contingent. There's no guarantee I can buy your house. But I'm so confident, I want your home so bad, I'm willing to adhere to the underlying terms of the agreement unchanged.
Okay.
My inspections will occur in 10 days. My reviews will continue. You give me the disclosures, they commence. You give me this. It all continues unchanged. That's how confident I am. But typically as a buyer, you're going to want to check the second box. Because certain things you're going to wait until I get an offer. And I notify you, okay, I've got an offer. Now my contingency time frames begin. Do you see how it's smarter as a buyer? Because you're kind of hedging your bets. Make sense? Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, did that light go on for someone? Okay. Now that's with that missing, right? Let's bring in back that little thing there. Except closing. For example, time to deposit earnest money or transfer funds, etc. So what that means is that is exempt from this conversation. Do you see how you have to dissect this and kind of get all, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So when I said that to my attorney, I said, okay, but here, you need to read it this way. This is how I read it. And he goes, oh my gosh, Paul, you are right. The way this is written is the deposit occurs unchanged. That's what this is saying. The underlying deposit date is unchanged. That's the way this is written or intended to be written. Is it written that way? Is it really? What if they said the timeline set forth in the financing section of the sales agreement and deposit deadline and transfer of funds continue unchanged?
Right.
Is that more clear? But that's what they're trying to say.
Except.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
They could have rewrote this differently. So what's happened out there though is a lot of people are going through the same gyration we keep. Even my attorney couldn't get this. He's like, wait a minute, what? This messed up an attorney. And so it's open for a lot of interpretation. You have to really read and dissect it. It's just very poorly written. And don't broadcast that. Anyway, that's poorly written, but I think it is. So we have this coming up frequently where people are writing contingent offers, deposits not being made, but it really should be being made. Okay? And we have other sides, other agencies saying, no, this says you don't have to make the deposit. Well, I can see how you'd read it that way if you're just doing a quick glance over. But if you go dissect it and put it in front of some legal counsel, it's actually said something different. It's just poorly written. So there's been some questions about this. The other question you have is, okay, so they delivered disclosures to me today, and we're contingent. When does that time frame begin?
If you check the second box. Which box?
Yeah, okay, I'd say let's say I checked the second box. But they delivered it to me today.
Disclosures.
Disclosures.
Yeah.
But I haven't delivered them the buyer's notice yet.
Yeah.
We're still
Self-
contingent.
yeah.
But technically, up here, it shouldn't begin until that delivery is given. But you typically send it. What you can do is hang on to it, not sign it, and send it back. Because that constitutes, do you see how they kind of got some holes in here? Yes, Christine.
Paul, so if the seller accepts a contingency, but the buyer's house is pending, and it will.
That's not a
Suppose
contingent right to
suppose-
purchase.
Then it's not a contingent? Okay.
Not this, okay, so that's, thank you for clarifying, just make sure that everybody's on the same page with that. If someone's trying to buy Adrian's house here, Scott's trying to buy Adrian's house here, and Scott has got a buyer, Melissa's buying his home, and they're pending.
Yes.
That is not contingent.
Oh, okay.
That is not a contingent right to purchase. It is contingent on my financing coming through still, and my financing is subject to that thing closing, but that is not a bumpable offer, and this addendum does not apply. Now, same scenario, but Scott hasn't even listed his house yet. Or Scott has not got an offer on his house yet. Well, then pick one of these,
Yeah,
right? That's a contingent right to purchase.
got it.
And now that's bumpable. Now, here's the answer on this financing thing. I said, Kevin, here's my solution that I've been telling my people, and I'm going to say it again, is you simply go down here to additional provision and say, earnest money deposit made within 3 days of mutual acceptance of original offer. Does that clarify what's up there? That's what you should do. And if someone sends this to you without that on it, like you're on the listing side and you don't have that there, you can counter with that. Earnest money deposit be made 3 bank days after mutual acceptance of original offer. That clarifies it. You have all this room to clarify all the stuff they did poorly on, right? The other thing that he says, I can see why would you not want a deposit? You gotta know a buyer's serious, right? And I said, true, and if buyers failure time, if they don't deliver notice within this time frame, they are entitled to a full refund of the deposit. How can you refund something that's never been made?
Right.
You see what I mean? So the deposit should be made on the contingent offer, and if you are submitting one,
It says it should.
but right here is where people get confused. The way this is written, it lends itself to several ways to interpret it, unless you read it carefully. And it shouldn't be this muddy, right? It should be much clearer. And it can be, just by simply adding it up here, unchanged. Deposit timeline is unchanged. That's all they had to do instead of doing the triple negatives down here. And the backflips and the twists and turns.
EG means example, right? Not
Yeah, for example.
Yeah. Example, yeah.
Well, it says,
I don't know. I'm reading
except, e.g. is another way for legal,
Except closing.
is Latin, for example. I can't remember what it is, but it's, there's something.
But those
It's a Latin abbreviation. It's an abbreviation of Latin of example. So just down here, if you're writing one of these, as a buy side, just say deposit to be made and just clarify it. If you're on the listing side and receive one of these, counter back and clarify it. That way there's no question, because when something like this is left so broadly open, it's open for interpretation, and I've heard several interpretations from several firms. And deposits aren't being made because it says we couldn't, and what can you do? We're gonna terminate, well, you can't, now you're just in a fight over
Right.
a problem someone else created.
This just happened.
They did it?
Like a month ago.
Okay, and what's your name?
My name's Patty Spring, I'm not with.
Okay, hi Patty.
I identified with, I don't think anything about it, but yeah, so my house was bumpable for almost 3 weeks, my listing, and we were able to just.
And didn't make a deposit? Yeah.
No.
Deposit should have been made.
Right.
As poorly written as this is, it should have been made, right? But you have people out there that, wait, no, we're not gonna make a deposit, it says it shouldn't. Well, it does say you're supposed to, but you have to read it.
And the contract was recently updated too, and that's what made it kind of murky.
Yeah, and the way that, timeline set forth in the financing section, earnest money deposit and transfer funds to remain, continue unchanged, would fix all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
I should be an attorney. Matter of fact, our attorney this morning said, okay, you just outwitted me today. I should pay you. And I said, that sounds good.
Good job.
It's not even about outwitting, but I actually sent this to a real estate agency or a Oregon Legal Hotline, Oregon Association of Legal Hotline, and I haven't heard back from them. So I don't know, they're probably kind of going to wait, what?
They're still discussing.
So I'd be curious to hear what they're going to say.
Yeah.
But that's the answer, and because it's coming up so much that I just wanted to spend a few minutes on it. Any questions on this?
Isn't this an ORIF issue?
This is whoever's writing the ORA forms, which I know who it is. It's an attorney we all know, and I won't say his name.
Yeah.
Been around forever. But there is an attorney that writes it in the direction of, and I just think simple's better, direct is better on everything, instead of except and what fors, and when I started in real estate, the form was 4 pages long. 4 1/4. That was a sales agreement. It went to 11, now it's back to 10. And you read through some of that stuff, you go, wow, this is, what? It shouldn't be that way. And it doesn't need to be, right? I think if you're trying to negotiate with a party on something, you're trying to cover your bases on some other, whatever, not real estate related, then I can see some value in some language that lends itself to interpretation. But in this, there's no reason for that to be open interpretation. Okay? Any other questions on this?
Do you want to go over 47 through 50, because we're getting a lot of questions on that as well?
It's the same kind of thing. Timeline of closing of this transaction shall be as provided in the sales agreement. So if you put in the sales agreement December 1st, that's the close date. What you should select is 49, blank calendar days after date buyer delivers notice to seller. 35 days after buyer delivers notice to seller. But guess what? You should have already been doing anyway. All the financing should be out of the way. So you probably close sooner than that. Yes, Lauren? Are you raising your hand? Oh, you see me doing this?
Seeing you do the robot.
I'm moving forward. This is my little thingy. Okay? But that's pretty clear. Moving on.
So another questions that we're getting is the confusion is what date should they put for a closing date on the sale agreement? We should cover that because that kind of contradicts itself.
You just push it way out.
Push it way out
But
to
this addendum overrides whatever's in the sales agreement. In the sales agreement, if you use zip forms, you have to put a date on it. You can always just leave it blank. If you can type in it, say see attached addendum. Additional provisions, you can say see attached contingency addendum. And you should state in there, see attached contingency addendum probably a couple different places.
I know, Paul, what you saying, and what the form says, closing remains unchanged, so you do have to really think about what close date you're putting.
Yeah, you have to be, you have to, right?
Yeah.
Or I would just never, I don't know, I can't see in a situation where it would continue unchanged in a contingency off timeline.
Yeah.
It's gonna, after 30 days after notice, unless something changes, so, okay. So moving on, I mentioned a minute ago about the book, Who Moved My Cheese? Who's ever read that? So when I was in real estate, years ago, I was in the phone business. Worked for a company called Access Long Distance. Funny little thing, Court Balky back there. Did you work for me or work? Yeah, Court worked for me there. I can't remember, it's been so long ago now. And there's Shannon Everson, you know Shannon Everson. She happened to work there too. This is all just, we didn't know that until Shannon called me, wait, you were in real estate? So anyway, so we all kind of worked in this phone business back then. And we were selling long distance services. And we were competing against AT&T, who's selling 35 cents full minute increments, and we were at 14 cents at 6-second increments, and you could save people 30 or 40, 50, 60% on their long distance services, and that's what we did. And then the industry changed, right? And then you had the doc. I remember talking with a guy when I was running the Eugene operation for Access Long Distance, and some guy came to me, Adam Fishman was his name, in case you know him, and he wanted to talk to me about this new thing that had come out that was shaking up the world called the internet. And he sat and he kind of presented the stuff to me at the time. We were just using, the best we had was a chat feature with people throughout the company on our computer. That's all we had, through a data line. And and he's talking about the internet, and I said, yeah, I guess I should learn more about this. I hear more and more about this. It should be coming pretty strong. And he goes, should be, it's already here. And he's all over my, he's jumping down my throat about the internet. And then I moved to Seattle, and I had an hour and a half commute each way into downtown, and I'd listen to the radio, just news radio is what I did because I was bored, and for an hour and a half each way. And I remember hearing about this new company that started up in Seattle called Amazon. Right. And over the course of a few years, then they're talking about Amazon just went public, and Amazon just split their shares 3 for 1, 4 for 1. Amazon stock's $400 a share, and this was kind of the news and then all of that stuff started changing the industry. So we were selling long distance for 14 cents a minute, making a killing. Margins were massive, but the industry changed. The cheese moved, right? And I kind of share all that kind of to relate it back to where we are in this industry. The cheese is always moving, right? There's always things you got to adapt to and be aware of. And when the cheese is always moving, you have a choice. You can choose to sit down in the maze where the cheese used to be and whine about it, or get up and go find the cheese, right? And do something about it, right? And not that the cheese is gone or that it's moved drastically, but there are factors in the industry that are creating some change. There's iBuyers, there's Zillow, there's Redfin, there's Open Doors, there's whatever. There's always something. And like I said earlier, this is $1 trillion pie. You think not everybody's going to want to get in that? You think Amazon wants a piece of that? They do, right? In the end, it's still a person-to-person. I need someone to help me through this business. There's not many people who are okay just hands off and let someone deal with it. It's a $500,000 transaction sometimes. And I want to put some things in perspective. So yesterday, is Steve Davis here? I thought I saw Steve. Yeah, there. He has a transaction going right now, and he got a really goofy addendum, and the seller of the home is Zillow. Zillow.
Okay.
Zillow owns the home. Zillow bought it from somebody. And so it was a really weird addendum and excluding this, and it wasn't matching up, and it was all jacked up. And anyway, we had to send that back through their agency to get taken care of. But I wanted to show you something. Sometimes when the cheese moves a little bit, there's a tendency to over-rotate and freak out needlessly, right? And sometimes it gets paralyzing. It's just part of the evolution of business and the world that you have to kind of adapt and be flexible and keep working hard. No one said it was going to be easy. Real estate's easy to get into, but no one said it's be easy, right? But it's still a great industry. I mean, where can you go to spend a couple $1,000 to make $500,000 a year if you're going to work hard? A couple $1,000 in licensing. You can go close 30 or 40 transactions and make $500,000. That's in the realm of possibility in the right markets, right? Where can you do that? You know how much a lawyer spends to get their degree, or a doctor? In some cases, a decade and $500,000 just to get it right? So anyways, it's still a great industry. So if you go to Advanced MLS, and I think I kept this up here, yeah. A quick look at the listing. SPH Property 1 LLC is Zillow's thing that's owning the properties. I don't know why, but that's the name that shows. How many listings do you think they own in Portland right now? Okay, here 12. Raise your hand.
53.
How many? 53. 12, 20, 30, a couple hundred. Okay, so all you do is count 2. Search, just so you can see what they are, and there's 2. 1 pending, 1 active. That's it. So how far has the cheese moved yet?
Not far.
So you can't spend a lot of time getting freaked out about the Zillow iBuyer right now, or you can just prepare that it's coming. So I get calls frequently, Rex this, Open Door this, Zillow that. The reality is they have an imperceptible portion of the market right now. Are they on the news? Oh yeah, that's where they're spending all their money, trying to do what? Solicit sellers. So what's the return on that investment? If I'm spending $10 million this month to go get 2 listings, you know what I mean? So there's still, it's unproven, right? So the cheese may move a little bit and change some things out. So here's what, back in telecom business, when the cheese moved, the prices per minute went from 14 cents to 12 to 10 to pretty soon you're almost giving it away. But the cheese kept moving, you just kind of adapt to it, right? So in this environment, the cheese is moving, you just have to adapt with it and deal with the changes that may come as a result of those things that come along. I saw a hand. Yeah.
I just tell my husband they need tax write-offs because they're really not making Open Door. If you track their listings, they're dropping compared under what they paid for the house in the first
Zillow and
place.
Redfin both lost money last year.
But it's some rich people that just need major tax write-offs.
And that's part of it, and it's someone with time to try, hey, I want to try this, right? And what it does do, it can affect a little bit of what we do. Who remembers doing 2.7% listing your commissions on the buy side? It's what it was all day long.
Right.
What is it now? 2.5, 2.25, and that's just kind of the cheese is moving a little bit thing. And let's be real. Come on, we have our value has its limits, right? Am I worth really 2.5% of a $10 million deal versus 2.5% of a? Okay, whatever. But you know what I mean? There's some law of diminishing returns where the public is becoming savvy to it, right? And that's what's there. But these changes are driving some of those. The public going, wait a minute, are you really worth that kind of? You know, I'm not going to pay you 2.5% of $10 million. I mean, I'll pay you 1. You know, that just part of the cheese moving a little bit. Okay, so let's do one more here. Revise search.
So real quick, is that Zillow thing, do they have a real estate agent?
So the listing company on those is Knife Realty. Knife Realty. So here's what Zillow did. Zillow looked at in the markets who's spending a lot of money with us. Let's go to them and see if like to be our listing office. But again, how many are there? 2. Right? And so Knife Realty spends some of you came from Knife, I don't know yeah. They spend a ton of money on Zillow and other things like that, and you know, they got acquired or merged into ERA, so it's really ERA, and they've gone to the effort to become the Zillow local agent. But for me, dollars and cents, how many thousands of dollars did you have to spend over time to get that privilege for 2 listings? Does that pencil out? Is there smarter ways to possibly do it as an agency and people? Probably, in my opinion. But we're not going to spend $5,000 a month on Zillow just so we can have the chance to possibly pick up a couple listings, right? Yeah, I'm sorry.
But the question is this the next Google or is it the next Netscape, right? I mean, how do you know
Exactly,
how
right?
far it's going to go?
And that's where how far is the cheese going to move? Is it going to go bloop and kind of change some things, or going to be like, holy crap, where'd it go?
Yeah.
Again, this is a $1 trillion basically industry. You got 1.5 million realtors. What's the likelihood of all that going away in our foreseeable future? 0. I would say 0. What's the likelihood of that landscape adjusting? High, right? This is already doing some things. Even if it's just psychological. You got people freaking, oh my gosh, Zillow's in the market buying houses. Really? 2? No, they might end up with 30 or 40 over the year, or I mean, but it's the return, the cost to obtain that client is high, really high. And at some point, investors or people get tired of spending that money, or they adjust it. They're going to have to adjust their model too. It's an experiment. Yes.
How did you figure out that SPH Property One LLC was Zillow?
I just well, it says it on their stuff. So Zillow's the owner. You go right into the listing, and you can click on it, and all the paperwork said, hey, this is Zillow Homes, Zillow Buyers, Zillow owns a property, and it's no secret once you get into it on the transaction.
So I'm the guinea pig.
So he's a guinea pig. And so when I now they might be operating under a different name I'm not aware of. I don't think so. But they've got the title company. Guess where the title company is located? New York City.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that, you have to wire and send your deposit to New York City. I mean, so it's a huge experiment. And like, you need to understand, this is by and large a person-to-person business. At least it has been, right? And to have that go away overnight is not going to happen.
Right.
But
I had a listing, well, I have a listing going live here today over in Tualatin, and these sellers are great people, and what they did is they received something from Zillow stating that they would buy their house for $305,000. I'm gonna list it for $299, and they go, Tom, gee, I mean, they're gonna buy this and they're gonna, you know, make it so easy. We don't have to worry about showings. We don't have to worry about this. I said, just a second. I said, it isn't that easy. The reason why I'm saying this is that don't be afraid of it. Make sure you go head on and talk to these people. And I ended up talking to this realtor and finding out that what he was talking out of both sides of his mouth. And Paul and I had a little conversation about this, and that's how I was able to approach this guy. But so the long and short of it is that just hit it head on. And then I shared that information back with the seller. The seller goes, oh, okay. Well, thank you. Well, that's why I trust you, and that's what we have to do with being part of the real.
What did you
real.
get with the bid on? Well, what are you talking about? When you say that, when you say.
What do I mean by hitting it on?
Yeah.
what did you say to him?
You have to talk to them. You have to call up their
I'll show you what some of the data points here in a second.
And once you do that, then you start asking questions about what are they, what are they going to do? What are they going to accomplish? How are they going to do that? And then they go, well, we said we'd give them 305, but we have to go look at the house, and then we've got.
And they factor in 9% commissions,
Right,
and
right.
by the time of that, you're. Would you, in this market, are you better off taking that because I don't want to show my house, or putting it on the market and seeing what the market will bear, right?
Right.
That's kind of the conversation. So, Open Door, 173.
That's what I thought you did the first time, because I know there's a
I did
lot.
Zillow before,
Yeah, that
but
was-
Open Door has been here longer, right?
Yeah.
And they're more established at this, but they have 173 in the market. For perspective, you go back to the front, where's the stats? 20,876 active listings, and there's about 100 they have. And they have some other pending, so between 2 million listings in the system, they have 173. You see what I mean? 173 is, oh my gosh, is it really? It's just another real estate company at that point. That's really, so don't let yourself get intimidated, but the iBuyer is coming, it's real, it's a thing, right? And you should go to this training and classes and learn more about it, and I'll talk some more details here. And but don't over-rotate. The cheese hasn't left the room. There's just more cheese in the maze, right? And there's more competitors for the cheese. Yes? Ken?
They also have it's like a box buy, what they call. They don't go over a certain amount, like they're not looking at listings that are, let's say, 6 or 7 or 800 or $1 million. That's not their house that they go after. And
Yeah.
certain areas they kind of like better than others. So if you see, a certain area that has a lot, and they know.
And they just won't pay top dollar for anything.
Mhm.
It's always at a discounted rate, building in the future commissions they got to pay to realtors. Right? So I think I could do really good in a bad market. You start looking at 5, 10, 12 months of inventory. But are they going to want to buy those? I don't know, because it's harder to sell.
Right.
Yeah.
Fun fact, they lose on average 30,000 per transaction nationally.
See?
So,
How long can that really last, right?
a long time, because they have like $20 billion.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so,
They're institutional money.
but they're all beholden to shareholders though too, right? And if you're just blowing money, then at some point, that spigot's not.
No, they're not beholden to shareholders.
Zillow's not?
We're talking about Open Doors, what I was saying.
Yeah, the ones that.
Open Door just got bought by a bank.
By VCs or not.
Yeah, exactly, they have infinite amount of.
They're owned by a bank, and banks are open to, depositors and things like that. My point is yes, investors are big business, they blow through a bunch of money, that's what they do. But it's not indefinite. If something's not working, they just don't keep doing it. Why do you think we don't have the old flip phones anymore?
They'll stop doing that when the buyer behavior is changing.
Yeah, but there's, at some point it doesn't make sense. Yes, Lauren?
I have a quick question for Patrick, because I've shown a few Open Door houses. Have you inspected any?
Lots of them, yeah.
Is there a general anything new with that?
No, I think, they tend to buy very specific types of houses, which I think everyone knows. Usually they're like, sort of newer, kind of grungy, like they didn't, like maybe they had tenants in them.
Yeah.
And they just did like a once over clean and paint. But, I mean, it's just like any other house, yeah. I don't think they buy pre-78, right? They don't buy anything before 78, so there's all these, like you said, the box that they buy in. I've got 3 in my neighborhood, you know, and they've been sitting, and they've been cutting prices.
Please make, yeah, there's one that was up by Jane's house on the market for months because they had overbought, and they finally sold it at a loss, in my opinion, from what they had into
Yeah, I'd
it.
have to say I've been in a couple of them, not really impressed with their work, you know, as far as.
Hey, I want to make sure I'm clear. I'm not trying to minimize and pretend. Don't pretend like they're not here. They're here, right? I'm just trying to put the cheese in perspective, right? Rex. Who's heard of Rex? So who's written an offer on a Rex? You know why you haven't heard about them very much? Because in the Portland market, they have a total of about 20 listings. That's it. This is their website, and what they do is they're not in the MLS, they're not anywhere, and if someone comes across, that they do feed to Zillow, but if someone comes across this property and you want to help someone buy it, they will not pay buyer commissions, buyer agent commissions. You have to negotiate that with your buyer. It's effectively a for sale by owner. It's really, it's just like that. And if you, just for fun, if you go to a big market like Chicago, let's just go look at Chicago. You know, they have about 31 listings in Chicago. So don't feel like the sky is falling. These people are out there, but so is Remax, so is Keller, so is Premier, so is John L. Scott. So, I mean, it's another competitor for the same business, right? But don't let yourself be overwhelmed by it. Does that make sense? That's kind of my point here. Does that make sense? And maybe some of those data points helps put it in some perspective for you. I hope it does. But I wanted to also, this is a breakthrough broker presentation. There's a video about how to work with iBuyers. I'm going to go through it quick to get to a couple things. I'm not going to touch on a lot of it. Come on. Okay. This is going to take too long. Okay, they're talking about, okay, you want an example? Another example of someone who didn't move with the cheese?
Yeah.
Oh, Netflix will never. All right. But if they would have adapted into it and been Blockbuster Online or something like that, or done some streaming, Blockbuster would still be on. That's what Hollywood do. They're great brands, but they refuse to adapt. Yeah.
Did you just hear on the news the other day that the millennials are going backwards now? They're all getting antennas. They don't want to have to pay the subscription prices because they're streaming the shows that they want. So they're going back, and it's just booming, the antenna business, and just, you know, gathering their.
Yeah, you saw that too?
Yeah.
I'm gonna start here. So you got the Open Door, you got the Zillow, you've got, I mean, I'm gonna, OfferPad, you've got Knock, you've got, there's Open Door. I mean, what is an iBuyer? An iBuyer is a company that buys homes directly from the seller without the use of a real estate agent, touting an easy, seamless transaction. Okay? Which may be true. They use an algorithm to set the fair market price that typically that they will offer. The problem with that is there's no other human emotions in it. For example, I had a home on the market since May. No offers, no nothing, and then all of a sudden, I had someone write an offer like 30 grand off on a $750,000 house, and it didn't work out. But all of a sudden, a week ago, last Friday, I got 2 offers within the same hour. Two transfers, and now I got them competing. One is less than a mile from Nike campus. One just transferred to Nike, and one transferred from Hilton. So this AVM takes away all of that. You know, it takes away all the personal impact or the personal connections or the needs. You know what I mean? An AVM is just a dollar that spits out based upon criteria I select, right, to choose to put in my algorithm. So you missed that. Not a fix and flip. They say they're not in fix and flip. They say they're delivering fair market value. Companies have huge financial backing, as we know. Open Door has $20 billion in secured Series B financing to slow expansion. Online real estate companies Open Door raised $210 million. Offer open at $325 million. I mean, so that there's billions behind these people. They just got 400 million from SoftBank. I think SoftBank actually just bought them, Open Door, Open Listing. And as soon as they did that, guess what happened to Zillow and Redfin stock? Because, oh my gosh, you now have a competitor, right? You know, just the psychological. So, going through quick, why sell to an iBuyer? Instant offer, quick close, no showing hassle, convenience, certainly a certainty of a cash offer, control over when you move. And people say this will never catch on, but it's here and it has caught on. Open Door reporting raising market share in all markets they are operating, they say. Zillow offers success, prompting them to double down and pledge move their business model in this direction. Large brokerages now launching their own iBuy program, seeing the value of the stress-free sale. Like there's some large companies who are trying to do the same kind of thing. Yeah, okay, so that, unless Keller's got billions of dollars at disposal they could waste, does that really make a lot of sense? If you're losing 30,000 a transaction. There's a lot of shakeup to occur in this. There's going to be a lot of movement in this high buyer, but it's here and you got to be aware of it. Some form of it will always be here, I believe. And you'll hear from clients, I decided to go let Zillow buy my home, right? That you might hear that. Or iBuyer, or Open Door. And just don't come from a negative place. I understand Open Door or Zillow model, and I think it is an interesting idea, and we can help on certain levels with that. Absolutely, in certain situations, selling your home to a company like them might be helpful. I mean, why get in a place of my cheese mint? Adapt to the conversation, right? Pretend like you're competing against a Keller. You're just competing with another real estate company, basically. It's just you got a different buyer for your listing. You lost the listing to a different listing company. It's basically that, right? Just having to be a buyer. Helpful alternatives. It may be important to consider some options you look into sale with Open Door or Zillow. When you sell your home to an iBuyer like Open Door, you take the possibility of selling in an open market that is off the table and missing out on other opportunities. You don't know what's on the open market because you're not entering the open market. You're not putting your house out for public visibility. You're just selling privately with no one else seeing it, or even knowing it's available. That's kind of the thing, right? It's certainly, you don't have to do any showings, you get a quick close, but are you getting the best, you're maximizing your situation, or are you just getting sold the convenience?
Right.
Okay?
Well, it's like you said about that other deal, you always get more on an on market than you do an off market.
You always do. I mean, your chances are, right? You can say, hey, look, I suggest you try the open market. If that doesn't work out, trust me, they're still waiting to buy it. Why not try the open market first?
Yeah.
iBuyer motivation. In an iBuyer transaction, you are doing business with $1 billion company looking to make the most profit possible. It's not profit for them, right? Alone, it's their profit. Okay, thank you for that. Effective representation can be the difference between making or losing money on the sale of your home. So it's about representation too. So utilize a comparative net sheet is one thing you can do. So a seller's net sheet, iBuyer comparisons. So
You guys, has everybody seen this? This is in the Chicago Agent One. Where it has seller
there's
and buyer
apps you can
net sheets.
actually use
Right.
to do
That
this.
looks
And
just
so,
like this, yeah.
So it just compares selling with a realtor, 425 at 6%. If you sell to an iBuyer, they're probably going to want to get 382 instead of that 425, typically, something like that. And they're going to want to do a service fee of 9% because they want to build in the future real estate commission they're going to have to pay. And there's other service fees and things like that. So it's not always financially a good decision. We might want to sit down and talk further because if you're going to look at an algorithm, let's look at fair market. Let's look at open market and compare the two. Okay? This is available on Basecamp. There's a video, so if I see some of you taking notes and pictures, you really don't need to do that. This will be sent out. You can actually see all this. Okay?
I emailed you a gift that was just like that.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
And it talks about net sheets and things like that. The bulk of the money is trying to be made by the other. Realtor iBuyer cost convenience. You have a balance and you have closing costs, and the realtor you're going to pay 18 grand in commissions, but you're going to pay a service fee of 24,000 plus 5,400, and you're going to and so the cost of convenience in that situation could be upwards of 50 grand. So it's worth analyzing and maybe not. But just because they're going to offer you something in cash and close in 2 weeks doesn't mean it's a good deal for you. Let's look at this. Let's just make a smart decision. Let me help you make a smart decision. If it's smart, the numbers will be there for you. But what you don't know, who might come along and just transfer to Nike, right? And like we said, they don't buy just everything. It's a very narrow, it's a thin sliver of homes that they're looking for and will invest in. Is the convenience worth it, right? For you as an agent, you want to make it easy to work with you. Here's my team. Here's what I'm going to do for you. Here's what we're going to do to be on the open market. Here, I want to touch on this too, and this kind of goes to many of you about photography. A lot of you, and some of you have talked to you recently, some I haven't. But when you do a listing, you know what you're creating? A portfolio. And if you have crappy photos, you're creating a crappy portfolio to show your clients. And guess what? Your prior listings are on all the websites, right? They can say, check out my prior listings, check out this. So my food for thought for all of you is it's worth the $80 on a listing to go get really good photos and make sure that house is clean so you create a good portfolio for yourself. Because now you can say, well, here's what I did for them, here's what I did for them, here's what I did for them, and it's kind of hard to do if you have crappy photos. Okay? And that's not directed at any individual individually, but a lot of you individually, because we see a lot of crappy photos. And then you take that and it gets fed out to the world, and a lot of times it looks like, well, they're just too cheap to get a photographer. And how's that look to a potential listing? Well, you're just too cheap to get photography. I mean, geez, I'm paying you 2.5%. You can't afford $80 for pictures? I mean, come on, wake up, right? Sorry, Jane?
What is innovative showing instructions?
You have showing suites, and I don't know, this wasn't my presentation, I have to watch the video, but on the video, they explain all this, but you can do innovative showing instructions means in the private remarks or public, you can, hey, easy to show, hey, we're offering 1 year massage with the showing, whatever. I mean, I've seen all kinds of stuff. Hand and stone gift certificates every month, right? I had one guy want a bottle of wine. It was like, okay, whatever. But sometimes it was, you can be creative, innovative on your showing instructions, but also your listing. And maybe offer, the point of this slide is become a little bit more, set yourself apart from just, I want to get the listing and take crappy photos and hopefully get a check in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Rise above that, right? Be something more.
Yeah.
And be the trusted advisor and someone who's going to help them and guide them through things. I always tell clients, look, getting the offer is not the hard part. It's after that is really what you're paying for. Because we all feed the same places. But here's the photos I use and what I'll do with your property. Here's a website I'll do for your property. Here's how it looks. So we can get out there and get the best chance to get an offer. But when that offer is in, that's when the real work begins for us. That's what I always tell people too. It's not just when you do an AVM and get an offer, I mean, there's none of the other stuff that's being washed out for. Okay. So don't lead with this, but just for your information, Yelp does hide your review pages for some of these people. They probably pay money to be hidden on some of it, but when you read them, some of them aren't very good, some are okay. So there's people who have varying levels of experiences with these people. It's not like it's all that is cracked up to be. Just like with any realtor. This realtor stinks, you hear that. Not everybody's a satisfied customer with all that. So the jury's still out on how all this pans out with the iBuyer, in my opinion. And it's not a matter of if you'll be faced with this, it's a matter of when. Zillow has 2 now, but they could have 200 before the year's over. I don't know. But 200, what is that percentage of the market still? 0.0001? But it's just another real estate company. They're the competitor, that's all it is. Who happens to be putting a ton of money in I see a lot more RE/MAX commercials on TV now too, because RE/MAX is the company now trying to, hey, don't forget about us. Yeah. Amongst all these iBuyer commercials too, so I think that was the end of it, yeah. And in Basecamp, there will be a video that kind of runs through all this. I'll show you what it looks like. There's a video that really runs down through that whole thing. I won't play it very long, but.
Hey everybody, it's Eric over at Breakthrough Broker. I can't believe.
There were 2,400 people who registered for that seminar. He goes through and says that. But he basically runs through most of what I just told you about. Okay? So that PowerPoint will be on there, but also where that went, that's always scary. So I guess the so what of all this is now that we're at 11 o'clock, I never got to writing an offer up there with the class about that, is iBuyers are here, they're real, but they don't own the market. No one owns the market, right? There's still a lot of real estate companies and a lot of opportunities, and there's always gonna be someone looking to move the cheese or to try and grab their piece of the cheese. That's just the nature of business, right? It would happen in telco. You know, it was, I don't know how big that industry was. I mean, it was massive. And, or the internet, everybody wanted a piece of it, and sometimes that was to the downfall of everybody, right? But what came of that? Who's paying for a long distance bill anymore? Raise your hand. It's gone. Who has an internet bill? Who has a phone? I mean, you see the market and technology, everything kind of evolved to something even better for all of us. So just because things might evolve and change doesn't mean you're gonna be, you could be left behind if you just sit and sit in your spot and say the cheese used to be here, where'd it go?
Yeah.
That's where you're going to be left behind and be frustrated. But if you're willing to be taught and trained and be involved and all that, and just kind of figure out, okay, where's the cheese going? And then you're going to be fine. That's my opinion, right? But just, it'll always change. And I'm really excited about some of the stuff we're rolling out next year. I hope you can come to the Christmas thing. We're going to talk about some of those things, kind of give you a preview of what's happening and with the company and how it'll benefit everybody. We're really excited about that. And just a great opportunity. We've 341 as of yesterday. That's where we are. And I think this is a record month of people joining.
Wow.
I think he's at 21 or 22 this month, something crazy. And so just a lot of really good, fun stuff going on. We're trying to position ourselves so that even in the lean times, we can keep growing and it's still a valuable place for people to be, right? But still something that benefits everybody, right? And so it's not like you join More Realty and we're a discount brokerage and you don't get anything. What does that even mean, a discount brokerage?
Yeah.
Now people say, well, we're a discount brokerage. Well, yeah, you're talking about how much commission we take out of your pocket, you discount that, but do you feel like you're lacking in anything here? Right? If anything, you get more than you ever got anywhere. So that's the kind of thing we wanted to create. So just a lot of fun. So anyway, hopefully this is helpful on both those fronts. And if you have any questions, watch for more classes and training. There's a class at 11:30 CE on another first-time homebuyer lending program. You probably ought to hang out if you can. And just be, you know, the iBuyer thing is not to be intimidated by it. Just to be aware of and learn and know what's going on. But I still say there's a lot of unanswered questions about how that evolves over time. Just because $30,000 loss per property, okay, that's fun for a time.
Yeah.
Right? You start doing $3 billion in losses across the nation, you know, people start taking note. What are you doing with our money, right? Anyway, it'll evolve. But anyway, thank you. Any last questions or anything before we end? No? Okay. Thank you.
You're awesome.
Thanks, Kim. If you didn't, be sure to sign the thing so you get your credit.
Yeah.